If you're within 5 years of retirement and you've managed to save $1 million, first of all, congratulations. That's a real accomplishment. Most people never get there. But here's the question I hear constantly from people in exactly that position. Is 1 million actually enough? And to be honest, the answer isn't what most people expect, because I've sat across from people with 2 million who are genuinely worried they're going to run out of money. And I've sat across from people with less than 1 million who are living comfortably and confidently in retirement without losing a night's sleep over their finances. So, what's the difference? Well, it's almost never about the number. It's about the plan behind the number. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Glenn's just going to tell me I need to save more. But no, that's not what I'm going to tell you. And I'm also not going to give you some generic rule of thumb like multiply your expenses by 25 and that's your number. What I'm going to do instead is walk you through the actual factors that determine whether 1 million is enough for your specific situation, as well as some of the mistakes I see people make in the final stretch before retirement that can create unnecessary stress and uncertainty. Hi, I'm Glenn Eckstedt, financial advisor. I help people navigate the transition from saving for retirement to actually living in it. And if at any point during this video you'd like a second opinion on your own situation, there's a link in the description where you can schedule a complimentary call. Okay, let's begin with something that sounds obvious, but most people haven't really sat down and thought it through carefully. Factor number one, your spending matters more than your balance. A person spending $50,000 a year and a person spending $120,000 a year are living in two completely different retirement realities, even if they have the exact same $1 million portfolio. One of the first questions I ask anyone approaching retirement is, how much income do you actually need? Not what sounds nice, not a rough estimate. What do you realistically need every month to maintain your lifestyle? Housing, healthcare, food, travel, family, entertainment, all of it. Because here's what I've noticed after working with a lot of people on this. Many people assume they'll spend significantly less in retirement, and sometimes that's true. But I've seen plenty of people who actually spend more during the first decade of retirement because they're finally doing all the things they spent 30 years putting off. Traveling, visiting family, picking up hobbies, enjoying life, which is exactly what retirement is supposed to be for. The point is, your spending number isn't something to guess at. It's the foundation everything else gets built on. Get that number right, and the rest of the planning conversation can become a lot clearer. Factor number two, where your income is coming from. Retirement isn't just about having assets. It's about turning those assets into income. And the amount of guaranteed income you have coming in before you ever touch your savings can change everything. Let me give you a simple example. Two people, both have $1 million saved, but one receives $4,500 a month between Social Security and a pension. The other receives $2,000 a month from Social Security alone. Those are two dramatically different situations. The first person may barely need to touch their portfolio at all in the early years of retirement. The second person may need to withdraw significantly more each month just to maintain the same lifestyle. The gap can compound over time, and it can make the difference between a portfolio that lasts 30 years and one that runs into trouble much sooner. This is exactly why income planning, not just portfolio planning, has become such a critical conversation for people in the final years before retirement. This is the kind of analysis I work through with clients every day. If you'd like to see what your own income picture might look like in retirement, click the link in the description and schedule a complimentary call. Okay, let's move on to factor number three, the market risk most people don't plan for. Here's a scenario I want you to think about. You retire at 65, your portfolio is at 1 million. You start taking income from it, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Then 6 months into retirement, the market drops 30%. Now, two things are happening at the same time that you don't want to do. Your portfolio is declining and you're pulling money out of it. Those shares you sell to cover your expenses, they're gone. They're not there to participate in a recovery. So even if markets come back, and historically they have, however not guaranteed to do so, your portfolio may not fully come back in the same way. This is known as the sequence of returns risk. and it's one of the most underappreciated risks in a retirement plan. Here's the thing that surprises many people when I explain this. Two retirees can earn the exact same average return over 20 years, and one of them can run out of money significantly sooner than the other, simply because the bad years happened at the beginning instead of in the middle. So the timing of returns matters as much as the returns themselves. That's why many people approaching retirement start shifting the conversation away from how do I maximize growth and towards how do I protect what I've built? Not because growth doesn't matter anymore, but because a significant loss early in retirement can be difficult to recover from. Factor number 4, healthcare. I want to spend a minute on this one because it's one of the most underestimated expenses in retirement. Healthcare costs in retirement can be significant, and they tend to increase as people age, often at a faster rate than general inflation. Medicare helps, but it doesn't cover everything. There are premiums, deductibles, supplemental insurance costs, prescription expenses, dental, vision, and beyond all of that, there's the question of long-term care. The statistics on long-term care are sobering. A significant percentage of people over 65 will need some form of extended care at some point in their lives, and the costs can be substantial, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars per year, sometimes more. I'm not raising this to be alarming. I'm raising it because a retirement plan that doesn't account for healthcare costs isn't really a complete retirement plan. The more honest your assumptions are today, the fewer surprises you may face later. Next up is what I call the silent drain on your retirement savings. Factor number 5, taxes. Here's something that genuinely surprises a lot of people. That $1 million sitting in your traditional IRA or 401k, the IRS has a claim on a portion of it. Every dollar you withdraw is generally taxed as ordinary income. And at some point, which is currently at age 73, required minimum distributions kick in, and the IRS starts deciding how much you have to take out, whether you need it or not. For some people, those RMDs can push them into a higher tax bracket than they expected. And that can affect how much of their Social Security becomes taxable, which can affect Medicare premiums, which can also affect cash flow. It's often a chain reaction that many people never see coming because they were never shown how it works. This is why tax planning in the years before retirement can matter so much. Small adjustments made today, while you still have flexibility, can potentially create meaningful benefits over a 20 or 30-year retirement. Not eliminating taxes entirely, just managing them strategically instead of letting them manage you. Finally, there's factor number 6, inflation, aka the slow threat. This one doesn't make headlines the way a market crash does, but over a long retirement, it can be just as damaging. Think of it like this. If you retire at 65 with $6,000 a month in income and inflation runs at a historically modest rate, that same $6,000 could have the purchasing power of roughly $3,000 by the time you're in your mid-80s. Your income stayed the same, but your lifestyle quietly got cut in half. That's why retirement planning can't just be about today's expenses. It needs to account for how those expenses may evolve over a retirement that could last 25 or 30 years. A strong retirement strategy typically balances growth, protection, and income. Not just one of those things, but all three working together. So, is $1 million enough to retire in the next 5 years? Here's my honest answer. Maybe. For some people, absolutely yes. For others, it may not be enough. And for some, it's more than enough. The number itself isn't really the determining factor. What matters is the plan behind the number. How much do you need to spend? Where is your income coming from? How is your portfolio positioned for the risks of early retirement? Have you accounted for healthcare, taxes, and inflation? Does your strategy reflect your actual goals and not some generic formula? When those pieces are aligned, retirement tends to feel a lot less uncertain. Not because the risks disappear, but because you have a clear plan for navigating them. And that's where confidence in retirement actually comes from. So if you're within 5 years of retirement and you'd like a second opinion on whether your plan is truly ready, not just the balance, but all of it, I'd invite you to schedule a complimentary call. We'll look at your situation together, talk through your goals and income needs, and figure out whether there are opportunities to help strengthen your plan before you make the leap. Just click the link in the description and we can get started. Because after everything you've put into building this, the decades of saving, the discipline, the sacrifices, you deserve to retire with a plan that's actually built around your life. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.